Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of our Songwriter Special at New York Loves Country. Really happy to have our first guest here today, Matt Rogers. Matt is a Grammy Award-winning songwriter who has written songs for some pretty big artists, probably songs that you know, probably songs that you know the words to, with the likes of Randy Houser, Brett Eldredge, Justin Moore, Mitchell Tenpenny, Dustin Lynch. We could go on for a very long time here, listing out some of these artists. Most recently, successful Grammy win for Cody Johnson's "Till You Can't." So, Matt, welcome. Really happy to have you.
Hey, man. Always happy to talk with a fellow New Yorker.
Man, look at that, and you're wearing the Syracuse shirt too, right on brand. So,
Dude, yeah, I had to put it on, man.
so since you mentioned it, obviously people might not know, but you're from Pennsylvania, but you do have New York ties.
I do, yeah. I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania, right? Pretty much right along the Binghamton border, and I went to graduate school at Syracuse. So I've spent a good deal of time in between Pennsylvania and New York for a good deal of my life.
Nice, nice. And so you've got the shirt. Are you a Syracuse sports fan?
I am. I've been disappointed recently with the ball club, but I think Jimmy Boeheim. I'm glad he hung it up. I think it was time. I love the guy. I think they just need a whole revamp because I don't like not seeing March Madness. I need them in the tournament.
Hopefully it's not too long before we can see him there.
I love it.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. But no. So Syracuse for grad school. Somehow you wound up in Nashville afterwards. So tell us a little bit about kind of how you got down there and how you got into songwriting.
When I got done with the Newhouse School at Syracuse, being done with grad school, I knew student loans were going to be breathing down my back. So I ended up getting a job. I was applying to jobs all across America, just like magazines, newspapers, online publications. And this is back in 2005. So that stuff was still a little more relevant than it is now. But the one job that hired me was in Brentwood, Tennessee, which is kind of a suburb of Nashville. And I took the job. It was for a healthcare magazine. It fucking sucked. It was boring. It was not what a aspiring musician wants to do. But it brought me to Nashville. And I think if you have any musical bone in your body, Nashville will inevitably bring it out of you. And it did for me.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard some stories about people when they first get in there working some pretty wild jobs just to pay the bills. So I mean, at least that's
Yeah.
not something too menial.
Well, that wasn't a wild job. I ended up having to work some pretty wild jobs. I worked a lot of bar gigs. Once I decided I wanted to be a songwriter before I got a publishing deal, I mean, I was bar backing. I was working at a warehouse from 5 a.m. to like 11, just opening doors. I did whatever it took, even with a master's degree. I knew that if I wanted to be a songwriter, I had to free up my afternoons to write. So I would work shit morning jobs and then go work, do the grunt work at bars, after 6 or 7 o'clock at night and close the place down. And that's what a lot of people do, man. You just got to put in the work.
You put in the work, you grinded, you landed your first publishing deal. So yeah, how long after you had your first publishing deal was it that you got your first cut?
Oh man, I got my first pub deal in 2009 or 10. My first cut was a Dustin Lynch cut. I think that was like 2012 or 13. It was a cut. It was never a single. Dylan Scott cut one of mine pretty early on. But my first hit wasn't until Randy Houser with We Went. And they call it Nashville a 10-year town. And it went number one almost exactly on my 10-year anniversary of being in town. I mean, it was within,
no kidding.
It was within like a couple weeks of a window of me moving here. I moved here in February of 2006 and it went number one March of 2016. So it was like right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So and that was also a number one song for you, right?
Yeah. My first single happened to be a number one. It doesn't always happen that way. But at the time, Randy, which he still is one of the best singers in town, but he's not as radio relevant as he was then. He was really coming off a huge hot streak. So landing a single with him when I did, it was I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but you had a very good chance of it being a successful song.
We Went, your first number one. You've got a total of 4 number ones, I believe. So what other singles went number one for you?
Well, Brett Eldredge, actually, it's considered a number 2. It was number 1. The chart works in a fluctuating way. You have to maintain a certain amount of spins. So it was actually hanging around at number 1. And then it didn't close out at number 1 on Sunday because it was behind a Florida Georgia Line Bebe Rexha song called Meant to Be, which is one of the biggest songs ever. Yeah. But as they say in Nashville, a number 2 is just, it's a number 1 without the speech. And they're exactly, they pay the same. It's all relative. But yeah, Brett Eldredge, The Long Way. And then Jimmy Allen, Freedom Was a Highway, and Cody Johnson, Till You Can't.
Okay, cool. And obviously a lot of recent success with Till You Can't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got that Grammy award.
Yeah.
What is that like to have one of those under your belt?
Well, it's definitely any songwriter will tell you, you never ever think a song is going to win a Grammy. Even if you know a song is good, you say to yourself, man, that's a really good song and I hope it does well. As a songwriter, you hope it charts well. And when I say that, it doesn't have to go number 1. It can be a top 20 and you know, like, okay, I provided for my family for a little while. It's something that if I play it live, people will know. So ringing the bell for number 1 is always very special. But I think that as songwriters, that's all we think about is just having a song that is successful on the chart, but your headspace is never that far down the road for a Grammy. Not ever.
Yeah. Speaking about that far down the road, I know sometimes in that industry, sometimes you write a song and 2-3 months later it's on the radio. Sometimes you write a song and it takes 10 years before it hits the airwaves. So
yeah,
with Till You Can't, is that one of those ones that was picked up quickly, or how did that work?
Till You Can't is currently 7 years old. It had been pitched around town. I've been writing with Ben Stennis, my co-writer. We've been writing together for about a decade. I think we always knew the song was special. And there was a couple people that I think held it, like Tim McGraw liked it. I think maybe Justin Moore, but it always just ended up getting bumped. So when Cody got it, I knew who Cody Johnson was because he's so successful on the Texas circuit.
Oh yeah.
And I knew his music, but I also knew that he wasn't very Music Row chart relevant. Like he hadn't had a charting single on country radio since like 2018. So when he cut it, we were like, that's great. I'm glad somebody cut it. And then when he said he was going to lead off with the single, Ben and I both said, well, okay, maybe we can get a top 20 out of it. And the trajectory was so fast. And it was like going from 40 to 32, from 32 to 27. Like it was skipping numbers. And wow. I have never experienced anything like it as a songwriter. And I also have a lot of really close songwriting buddies that have never had a song. And guys who've had more hits than me say that they've never had a song jump that quickly up a chart.
That's insane. Yeah. And his whole career now is, I mean, that man's everywhere. He's winning awards. He's winning Grammys. He's winning CMTs. So yeah, it's pretty crazy to hear that. And 7 years. Wow.
7 years old. Yeah, man. Yeah. It's pretty crazy to look back on. And, when it won the CMA, single of the year. Single of the year recognizes the artist and producer, which Ben and I were so happy. We didn't get the CMA song of the year. So the Grammy, that recognizes the songwriters. So that for me and Ben was very special because it validates us as songwriters. But as cool as winning the Grammy was, Ben and I got to perform that on stage at the Ryman in Nashville. And and the Ryman has always been a bucket list for me. I've always wanted to play the Ryman, and that was probably the best experience I've had as a result of that song. More so than the Grammy for me. The Ryman is that special.
you know, with the Grammy, just so in case people didn't know, it was for Best Country Song.
Best country song.
Now, Taylor Swift, Luke
Yeah.
Combs, Miranda Lambert, Chris Stapleton, Maren Morris. So
Yeah.
like it's, I mean, we're not talking small names. That's when you found out you were nominated and who you were up against. Did you think in your head like,
Never.
oh man, there's no way in hell we're going to win this?
Yeah, I thought there was so many things working against us. Taylor, obviously being as big a star as she is, that was the first hurdle. The Grammys also happen to be a little bit more of a liberal platform, and in the climate, I think of America, Cody, you know, is a white Christian cowboy, gun owning hunter, fisher, all of that stuff, outspoken conservative. And I thought, and that's not a bad thing. Everybody is entitled to be who they are. But when it comes to something like the Grammys, I think that could be a problem. And it was something that concerned me, and I think it concerned Ben, but I think they looked at the quality of the songs, and the panel voted on ours, and it was amazing. I still can't believe it.
That's I mean, it's life changing.
Luke Combs and Maren and Miranda, and it's just the competition, Willie Nelson being in there, and there was just so much amazing music, and all of those songs could have equally and been very deserving of winning.
Yeah. And so for you, somebody who's been, you know, working as a songwriter for as long as you have, you've recently won a Grammy Award. Does that mean that opportunity comes knocking afterwards? Are people coming knocking your door down? No,
man. Nashville is we call it campy. Every artist has their circle of writers, and most of the time you'll see the same circle of writers on any given artist. Like, Ben and I, we write together, and theoretically you can consider he and I to be a camp, if you will, but it hasn't sent people, knocking down our doors for co-writes, because everybody just has their own lane. And I feel like it's a competition thing. So me and Ben continue to write constantly. After we wrote the Grammy, we were writing that Monday. So it wasn't like we took time off to celebrate. We were right back in the studio writing again with one another. So no, it's just one of those things in Nashville. You do what you do, and you hope it pays off. But
right.
But yeah, and would I like to write with some new people? That'd be great. But I love the guys I write with, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah. And so if you had a choice to, whether it's an artist or a songwriter, to pick anybody out there right now to write with, who's top one or two on your list?
I definitely would like to write with some more pop centric guys. Like, I love Ryan Tedder, One Republic. I'd love to get into that kind of world, because I love pop music and I know I can write it. But in terms of Nashville, I love what Miranda Lambert does, and I've never written with her. I just think she's so cool. I think her music is fantastic, and she's really maintained just an authenticity for most of the duration of her career. So I would love to write more with Miranda. I love what the guys from Old Dominion do. I think they're clever. Yeah, there's some stuff out there that's just really fantastic music.
Cool. So anything in the projects, anything in the pipeline that's going to be cut soon, or anything that we might hear soon that's a product of what you've written?
Yeah, there's Darius Rucker just cut one of mine. That's going to be on his upcoming project, which is really cool because I'm 41, so I grew up listening to a lot of Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh yeah.
So Darius cut one of mine, and I'm excited to hear that. Cody actually cut. He's about to release a new record soon. I have two on there. One that I actually wrote with Ben, the guy I wrote Til You Can't with, and also Cody joined us on that song to write it. So it's 3-way, which awesome. Is which is really cool. And we wrote it entirely through text messages and voice notes. We didn't even Zoom. We didn't get together, which is, it goes to show you what songwriters are capable of and what we'll do to get a song written.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some cool shit that I'm excited about, but I'm most excited about the new Cody stuff. I really am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's, like I said, we just talked about how much he's blown up, and I think it's only getting better. I'll tell you, I've been following that guy for probably like 4 or 5 years, and he's done some venues in upstate New York where we've gone to, like I said, maybe 400 or 500 people back in like 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And in Syracuse, the On Center was
the On Center is the best, man. I used to go to shows there all the time.
Yeah, it's everybody singing every single word to a song, and it's just like, good for you for being in with him and having opportunities to continue to do work with him.
I think he is. It's funny because Garth is still Garth. He's still Garth.
Right.
I think Cody is a newer generation's version of Garth. The way he performs, the way he holds himself, and the way he presents himself. But he's also a very accommodating guy. When Cody cut Til You Can't, he also cut 2 more of my songs on that record. One of them's a solo right that I never thought anybody would cut. And I had never met Cody before, and he happened to be playing at the Ryman, and he invited me on his bus, and I ended up just hanging out with him. And my father-in-law was with me, and it was a thrill of his life. But he just invited us on the bus, gave us drinks. We talked about family. We talked music. And this is the first time we met. That's how fucking cool he was. And that's not awesome. All artists will do that. A lot of artists are reserved and they don't want people in their private space.
Right. And so the other 2 songs off of that album are, let's see, we've got Driveway and Treasure, right?
That's right. Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Cool. All older songs too, like Til You Can't. I wrote Driveway with my buddy Lindsey Rhymes a long time ago, man, probably 6 years ago. Treasure, same thing. He just liked what I was doing, and his manager liked what I was doing, and it landed, and I just got lucky,
Awesome. Yeah. Sometimes that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
So do you, down in Nashville, do you, you mentioned your camp, but I know one of the coolest parts about that city that I like when I go down there is just being able to go to different venues and see writers' rounds.
Sure.
So do you get to play in writers' rounds down there? Do you take part in those things?
Always, man. It's there's a venue called the Listening Room. The owner has been a long time friend of mine. I just did his podcast. His name's Chris Blair. I just played the Listening Room last Thursday. That's something I think as songwriters, one of the coolest things about it is not only do you get to play your own songs for an audience, but you also get to hear because it's usually around 3 or 4 guys, and you get to hear what your buddies are writing that you haven't heard yet. So it's a very interactive, I think a very unique experience to Nashville. But yeah, I still play the Bluebird. I play the Listening Room, and the cool thing is as you have more success in town, you get to start playing outside of town. So I'm going to be playing the Sundance Festival, which is going to be really cool. Playing a private event. I write for Sony. They're doing a thing called Country in the Keys, which is in Key West. So if you put in enough time and effort, you get to start playing some cool venues.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So since you mentioned being able to play different venues, are you able to play us a little something, anything you want to, for even if it's just a little snip?
You got it, buddy. Let me get my guitar. Yeah, I'll give you the chorus of Til You Can't.
All right, sweet.
You got a chance, take it while you got a chance. If you got a dream, chase it. 'Cause a dream won't chase you back. You're gonna love somebody. Hold them as long and as strong and as close as you can. Till you can't.
Man, that's awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, buddy. I'd play more, but my kids are making noise.
Yeah, well, hey, man, we'll let you get back to the family and enjoy your night with them. But again, thank you thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today, and wish you nothing but the best of luck and more success on the way, and looking forward to hearing some of your new stuff that comes out soon.
Thanks, pal. I appreciate it. And if you need contact information for any other writers that you think you want to have on there, just holler at me, and I got you covered.
Hey, I really appreciate it.
Got it, pal.
Thanks.